definitely not the last.
Bravo.
All right. Let's talk about Jews.
That's what we're here for.
Rather than talking about Jews, we will talk about you actually,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Okay.
You're almost as important. I mean, what is left out of you? Grab a seat.
I spilled some water. Thank you. I just got here from birth.
All right. When we were young, we had a clear impression, probably a misleading impression, but we, you know, even for an ex-Jew, the sound of a train is kind of a tormenting event. All right, you're right. You know. When we were young, it's a different action. I'm the next one. It's okay. When we were young, we tended to believe that the political system was an extension of our whims, our wills, our wishes. And it was a lot of fun. It made us optimistic. It was called liberal democracy. There was left and there was right, and we had to pick a side, and we supported our politicians, and somehow what they did or were promising to do had something to do with us, the people. This is not the case anymore. For quite a while. For quite a while we have been reduced into consumers. And the role of the politician is to sustain consumption. How do they do it? By means of credit. For a very long time, we were buying a lot. Many things that we didn't really need. With money we didn't have. And at a certain stage, it was clear that we were buying things with money we have never had. And this realization is called the credit crunch, 2008. You remember, or you managed already to suppress it? LA. You probably noticed that at a certain stage they started to build all these glass towers. I just saw that you have a new one yesterday. And these glass towers, usually for banks and traders and so on, were there to convey an image of transparency. You know, see, we have nothing to hide. It's glass. But I don't know if you noticed, I tried it a few times. When you really get close to these glass towers, you will notice that it's not transparent. It's actually mirrors. And when you try to look inside, to peep inside, all you see is yourself standing out in the street in the cold. In LA it's not really the cold, but in New York it worked. Definitely in LA without air condition, in the street. This book is all about the condition of being left out alone in the street, deprived, poor. I spoke with some of you each of you, your industries is falling apart. You are becoming the underclass, the workless people, while some oligarchs in these glass towers triple their capital once a month. How many people here triple their capital once a month? No, I want to do kind of look into statistics because today 20% of my audience triple their, but no room, no reason to make statistics yet. They are not here. How did it happen to us? How is it possible that such a huge transition in our society was evolving while being undetected? Why do we have press? Why do we have universities? Why do we have academics, sociologists, economists? The gynecologist is completely different, you know. And they actually detected, but they know it's not your field, we don't care. They get deep. That is what's bad. I'm so lucky because you are so politically correct that you don't even manage to grasp my idiotic, dirty humor.
I got it.
Are you from LA or?
Yeah.
Really? No, because usually I come with a drummer, and when I come with a bad joke, you know. How is it possible that all of that, this tremendous change in your society, was imposed on you without you realizing that something went dramatically wrong? I looked into it and I came to a conclusion that we can really point at two corrosive elements in your society and in the Western society in general. One element is political correctness. I promise you, we will dig into political correctness. I hate political correctness. I'm basically the most politically incorrect human around, and I'm developing it. I'm still working on it. It's not, I don't have competition, you know. I hope that soon someone will start to compete with me. Maybe Donald Trump. Bless him. He is good at least in one thing. We will talk about political correctness, but I prefer to start with the second element, which is identity politics. When we were young, I mean, this doesn't apply to you three. When we were young, you were not existed. You were eggs.
Still an egg.
When we were young, the left had a very simple message. It was there to unite us. They told us it doesn't matter. If you're black, if you're a Jew, they never spoke about white. If you're black, if you're a Jew, if you're a Muslim, if you're gay, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. We are all together against the bad guys. This is what they used to say. It was extremely exciting, especially between the age of 16 to 21. By the age of 22, you buy your first car. By 24, if you're lucky, you have kind of a one-bedroom flat, and maybe it's not a great idea, but I really don't like to share. But before you have anything to share, the left message is humane, it is exciting, it's empathic, human brotherhood, everything is there. But then suddenly, pretty much out of the blue, as it seems, the left changed tactics. Instead of uniting us, it started to divide us. It taught us how to speak as a. We are the as a people. We learn to speak as a Jew, as a black, as a gay, as a lesbian, as a Hispanic, as a Puerto Rican. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I would ask an American person, where are you? He said, I'm an American from Florida. I'm an American from New York. Now you ask Americans, what are you? They start to tell you, oh, I'm a German, Irish, Cherokee, yeah, everyone wants to be native now as well. Like a kind of designification of America. How did it happen? How did it happen that you, from being a nation, you became a bunch of broken entities? Fascinating. It happened to you, not to me. I always reject who I am. I am a self-hater, which is a form of self-love. You love yourself, hating yourself. The dish. When you eat the dish, you laugh, even if you didn't understand. All right?
No.
More frightening is the idea that breaking society into identitarian groups that are defined largely by biology, yeah? The LGBT are largely defined by biology, by their sex orientation. They believe that it's genetic. I don't know. I'm not a genetic specialist. I'm not an evolutionary scientist. By skin color, black. By the blood of your mother, Jews. The left push us to start to identify with biology. Have you ever tried to contemplate over it? How sick it is? The left has managed to push us to adopt the most embarrassing part of Hitlerian ideology. Because when you think about fascism or National Socialism is not a bad thing at all. Socialism is great, as we believe, between 18 and 21. And nationalism is not a bad idea. What was the problem with National Socialism? Tyranny and the race. It was tyrannical. This is how we look at it. The German maybe didn't say it as tyrannical, they loved it. But the most problematic issue was the race. Hitler believed in socialism of one race. Why is it a problem? Because if you don't belong to the right race, you have a problem. Hitler pushed us to identify politically with our biology, and the morons in the left push us exactly in the same direction. The LGBT identify with their biological symptoms. The Jews are identified. Jews, by the way, are not race, but the politics is always racist. Black with your skin. And why it is a disaster? Because the most important things in society are education, health, and production. If we have production, we have a good reason to wake up in the morning. We go to work. I've tried it once. Instead of fighting for these three things together, whoever you are, black, Jews, LGBT, we fight each other. The women fight, or the feminists, the white chauvinist, the black fight the white racist, the gays fight the white homophobe, the Jews fight everyone, but we are not allowed to talk about it. We are not going anywhere. Nothing is really happening. For us, for the people. Thank you, left. It's actually not the left, it's the new left. You ask yourself, how did it happen to the left? Progressives are a corrosive, cancerous symptom. But we have to understand what really happened there. I came to the conclusion that left, as it seems now, it's not a political position. It's a mental state. Yeah. Or in Yiddish, a mental shtetl. No, it's not, but you know, it's a mental shtetl. It's good, actually, mental shtetl.
I want to have it with my coffee.
I looked into it. How did it happen? Again, I identified two dangerous elements. First, I realized that the left is imbued with institutional animosity towards, guess who? The working people. Why? Because the working people vote for Trump, for Le Pen, for the Tories. They like the flag. All these ideas about social, what? The left is very, very upset. The traditional, the good left, I'm talking about the good left, they are really, really upset with the working people, because when they came to the working people and told them, listen, tomorrow, 12 o'clock, there is a revolution. We meet in the Hungarian Cultural Alliance. The working class said, yeah, it's a great idea, but I cannot do 12, I'm at work. The working people are called working people because they go to work. Something that Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, didn't do, not even once in his life, had a proper job, going to a factory. 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. These leftists, they don't work, they don't belong. Bernie Sanders? Did he work in a factory? They don't even, they are removed from the human experience, i.e. production. It's a bit of a problem. The left is embedded with animosity towards the working people, and the way around it is to destroy the working people. How we destroy the working people, their cohesiveness, the unity, we break them into sectarian groups. We teach them to speak as a woman, as a gay, as a black, as a Jew, as a Muslim, as a. We teach them how to fight each other. We introduce as many. We open our borders to immigration. I'm not anti-immigration, I'm an immigrant. But I know how easy it was for me to settle in Britain. I was more than welcome. All right? Why? Because I was invited to participate in this attempt to break the working people, and it was an orchestrated left attempt, new left. In Britain it was Tony Blair. Here you can identify the elements that led this process. They break society into sectors in an attempt to create a new cosmopolitan grouping. So, for instance, if you're a gay, your group doesn't end in the Canadian border or in the Mexican border. It continues to Canada. It continues to Mexico. It continues to Britain, to France, to Germany, Poland, Russia. So if America wants to push Putin or to mount pressure on Putin, we will use, for instance, the gay lobby in Russia. And this is exactly what we are doing. When we want to take Afghanistan in the name of Ziocon immoral interventionist wars, we put the feminists into action. And they will start to talk about the abuse of women's rights in Afghanistan. And then we go to liberate the women. In Afghanistan, in Iraq. There is a great story about Barbara Walters. 97, she was in Afghanistan. And she could see that the men were walking in the street 3 feet ahead of the family and the women. The women were slightly behind. And she asked them for a second, what is going on here? What? I noticed something quite strange. And the translator told her, listen, it's a beautiful custom here. That we respect the men. It's a patriarchal society. We let the men go first. What? She went on air and she started to shout about women's rights abuse in Afghanistan, and we have to change it, and we have to liberate the women and to equalize rights. In 2003, she went back to Kabul, and she couldn't believe it. The women were walking 150 feet ahead of the men, really, and the man was really walking very cautiously behind with the kids. She went on air and she said, I remember it. We won. We won. Women, not only that they are equalized, they are now leading the Afghani society. And the same translator told her, you're wrong. You really don't understand. It's because of the landmine. No. They got it. All right? We don't understand these societies. Few American lesbians cannot liberate the Afghani people. All right? And we won't liberate the Arab world with clitoral protest. It's not going to work. And again, I have nothing against the clitoris. I was a clitoris myself. No, this works with immigration. It doesn't work with female organs. Sorry. We will have to do a lot of editing on the video. We don't. You won't. But the left wasn't alone. The Jews, Jewish intelligentsia was there, together with the new left, at the core of this process. And why? Because Jewish intelligentsia is clever enough to understand that as things are, they have a problem with the working people. Jews have suffered more than once from working people. It happened in Germany. It spread in Europe. It happened before. It happened in Ukraine. The pogroms. And what we see is a combined effort of the new left and Jewish intelligentsia to break society and in practice to turn all of us into Jewish tribals. We start to identify with people whom we believe are very similar to us. Like in the case of the Jews, as I mentioned just now, this identification is cosmopolitan, is global. The Jewish lobby is not just here in APAC. APAC, CFI in Britain, CRIF in France, Australia, everywhere. And these lobbies work together. Sometimes they fight each other. And again, the question is, how is it possible that such a huge transformation in your society took place without you realizing it? You know what is the answer? Maybe I have to protect myself. The answer is that you are fucking stupid. And I don't really mean it. I'm sorry. All right? But you are fucking stupid. You know, when you come with a joke, it works. Then it doesn't work twice, and 4 or 5 times. You are fucking stupid. It doesn't work. But if I say it again, it will work, and I won't. Because you got the message. Why you're stupid?
Department of Education.
It's true, but it goes farther. Why you're stupid? Because we made you stupid. How did we make you into a bunch of zombies? Political correctness. Political correctness, like identity politics, was introduced as an attempt, as a positive attempt, to make society nicer. You had a problem in this country with racism, with intolerance. I'm not denying it. Political correctness was an attempt to solve it. I accept it. But it didn't work. The measures of oppression changed. The civil rights movement, and you may not agree with me, didn't solve the problem. You agree with me? You know? You see, I'm taking a risk. As much as Zionism didn't solve the Jewish problem, it just moved it to a new place. The dish. What is political correctness? Political correctness is politics. By the way, you notice that I'm walking all the time. It's like a wandering. Yeah. No, it's because people told me that I'm in danger, so people.
Dodging the bullet.
Political correctness is politics that doesn't allow political opposition. Whether we like it or not, this is exactly the definition of tyranny. But political correctness is way more dangerous than tyranny. Why? I don't remember. Because in the case of tyranny, you hate Stalin, Bibi Netanyahu, Hitler, and I really don't want to offend Hitler supporters in the room. So, and as I mentioned, I'm not so sure that Hitler was a tyrant. It's very problematic. He saw himself as a Führer. This is how his people say. It's more complicated. Political correctness is way more dangerous because it involves self-suppression. It is us who made ourselves into a bunch. Sorry, I'll start all again. Political correctness. In political correctness, it is us who made ourselves into zombies, or in Yiddish, zombelich. Because we have the three Jews in the room that I'm aware of, so I want to make sure that they understand. Zombelich, that was b'choyes, that was shmoy, that's a ketoyes. Yeah? Zombelich, yeah? That's zombelich, yeah? Why? They installed a gadget inside your brain, and it operates like a Trojan horse. When you say something authentic, you see a good-looking woman, fancy a shag or something. Do you say fancy a shag in? No.
We get it.
So you get it, yeah? No, this is why I probably didn't manage to score in America. So how do you say it in America for future reference? How do you say it in America? You don't even know how to say it in America. Did you get it?
Correct.
You don't even know what I'm saying. Robert.
But if you don't ask, then
Where is Robert?
Rob. Right there.
Yeah, how do you say fancy a shag in American? They don't have, it's basically,
Want to get laid.
want to get laid.
Want a piece of ass.
And have you used it lately? Yeah, you used it. Yeah, I can see the smile. But anyway, when you say something that is authentic, that expresses your true beingness, the gadget starts to blink. Because it may offensive, be offensive. And instead, you learn the lesson because it's very painful when it blinks. The next thing that will happen, when you see the next girl, is and you move on. The third time, you don't even think about it. You become a sexual zombie. Sexual zombelich. Yeah? You become a sexual zombelich. This is, by the way, the first time that I'm doing it. I started yesterday to speak Yiddish. Now I don't speak. I don't know the language, but it sounds authentic, no? You speak Yiddish?
No,
So
my dad does.
bring him next time.
He would love to be here.
You would love?
Oh yeah, my dad
Okay.
would definitely be here.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring my parents as well, and we do this thing. Anyway, the fourth time, there is no fourth time. We forgot how to think. They turned us into a bunch of castrated humans. It's hard to believe, but this is where we are. And you still don't know how they did it. You don't remember it. But everyone else knows, just because you're young. Archie Bunker. Do you remember Archie Bunker? Everybody in the room remembers Archie Bunker. Do you? Any? No. No one, huh? Okay. Archie Bunker was a middle-aged, working class person. I'm talking about, it was a TV character. All in the Family, I think?
Yeah. Well, that-
World War II veteran. He was basically Donald Trump. He was saying what he thought. He was talking his truth. He was the most beloved TV entertainer, according to some polls, in the 20th century. And how many seasons is it? Many years, huh? Many years, like 10 years or something like that. There was another character, very important for the message to get across, his son-in-law, Meathead. Meathead, this wasn't his real name. What was his real name?
Mike.
Mike, Meathead, and he had another name for him, Polish something?
Spivak. Spivak.
Spivak, yeah, no, but he had another name for meat. Anyway, another kind of insulting name. Meathead. Polak, because he was a Pole, yeah? Yeah, Polak, which is like Paki in England, yeah? A clear insult in reference to his origin, to his ethnicity. It's like calling a Jew Kak, which is very offensive, or a Pakistani Paki in England, I don't know. Polak, it was a clear insult. Even more than Meathead. Meathead was a boring nerd, politically correct. He would, for 25 minutes, Archie Bunker would speak his mind, and Meathead would correct, oh, you cannot say that about lesbian. Oh, no, you cannot say. This was the role. And week after week, this All in the Family picked on a different margin or identity within sector, within American society. One week it will be the women, then the feminists, then the Jews, then the Hispanic, then the gays. Week after week, exactly the same. It was hilarious. Everybody loved it. It was prime time, I think 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
In America, Saturday. No one would miss it. Every week, it pushed another sector into a form of identification. And guess what? Despite the fact that we were all crazy in love with Archie Bunker, 20 years down the road, you are all meatheads!
Yeah.
Genius!
Yeah.
They did it to you under the radar. It really went under the radar. It's quite amazing. And here's something to think about. In 1971, the peak of the Vietnam War, the CIA is desperate to destroy these communists, all these student cells. They don't know how to infiltrate into these cells. And the Cultural Revolution that is really there to destroy America as we know it, makes it into your TV at 8 o'clock Saturday. You are transformed by drinking beer, eating popcorn, playing with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or both. Was it a coincidence? Was it just an entertaining TV show? No. The man who invented Archie Bunker was Norman Lear. Norman Lear was a progressive Jew who really wanted to change the world. I'm not telling you that Norman Lear was a bad guy. I don't know him, and I don't necessarily have the reason to think that he was a bad guy, okay? You don't have to go and, no, leave him alone. He's an old man now. I think that he's still alive. Norman Lear wanted to make this society a nicer society. While the CIA were working 24/7, desperate to stop the communists, he was just sitting on his fucking typewriter, having fun with his imaginary characters, and he revolutionized your society totally. Quite an amazing project. The Cultural Revolution is something that you don't manage to detect. It's not violent. By the way, now it is violent because they are losing. The Antifa are violent. They are tyrannical. They call themselves Antifa, anti-fascist. They are the closest thing this country or the West have seen since fascism. And here is something to think about. In 1971, Archie Bunker was a bag of blind spots. He didn't see the black. He didn't see the feminist. He didn't see the lesbian. He didn't see anything except himself. This is why he was so funny. He couldn't see that the society around him was transforming. He didn't understand it. This is why, as much as we loved Archie Bunker, we left him behind. We kind of learned to think that he belongs to the old world, and actually the idiotic vision of Meathead is where we should go. And we did. It is an interesting form of manipulation. In 71, it was Archie Bunker who was a collection of blind spots. In 2016, it was the Meatheads, Hillary Clinton, and the bunkers who couldn't hear the cry of the working people, the blue collar in Michigan, in Indiana. Ow! I'm a tourist. I was in Indiana 3 days ago. It looks like Gaza. It's not funny. It's a disaster. You know, here in California, it looks quite okay. It is a happy place, but your country is in a devastating state. When Trump stood up and said, and I'm not a Trump supporter, all right? When he stood up and said, we want to make America great again. And by the way, half of the American, not half of the American, half of the voters, if we have, in terms of America, probably 26% or something like that. But the people who made him into president wanted Archie Bunker. Because Archie Bunker went to work in a factory. His wife stayed at home. His daughter stayed at home. with her husband, his son-in-law. They didn't work a day like a proper lefty. And Archie Bunker alone funded all of them. This is 70s. In the 50s, a milkman could support a 4-people family. Now, a professor's couple cannot support a family. I have a friend here who is a university professor. She has to run between universities. Am I right? And probably when she teaches, she cannot even tell the student the truth because it may be politically incorrect. In this book, The Wandering Jew, by the way, look at the title. When I published it in 2012, it's called The Wandering Jew, a study of Jewish identity politics. People told me, identity politics? What is it? Why are you talking about that? We have never heard about this term. I was the first, probably, to look into identity politics. Now everybody, 2016, identity politics, where did it come from? Stay with Gilad, you are always 4 years ahead of everyone else. In this book, the task was relatively simple. I tried to look into the meaning of Jewish identification. I thought, if Israel defines itself as the Jewish state, the first question that we have to ask are, who are the Jews? What is Judaism? What is Jewishness? How these terms are interconnected? Why is AIPAC dominating American foreign policy? Why the same applies to the CFI in Britain or CRIF, the Jewish lobby in France? How they become so powerful? What is it about this identification? And I came with some interesting answers. I guess because a lot of people hated it. But they still bought the book. In this book, I tried to complete this project. I looked into it for quite a few years now, and I came to a conclusion that the problem that we witness in America, in Europe, in the West, has something to do with the clear division between Athens and Jerusalem. Athens is the city of reason, logos, logic, science, beauty, art, philosophy. In Athens, we think things through. In Jerusalem, we don't. Jerusalem is the city of law. Do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Jerusalem is the city of revelation. Now, and this is not Jew-Gentile division. Hillary Clinton is a Jerusalemite. Tony Blair is a Jerusalemite. France fell yesterday to the hand of a Jerusalemite. It has been Jerusalemited for quite a while, so it's not a big change. People can be Athenians and suddenly become Jerusalemite. It doesn't work the other way around. The progressives are always always Jerusalemites. They always tell us what is right and who is wrong. Always. If they don't agree with you, you become a white supremacist, anti-Semite, Holocaust denier, redneck. What else?
Inbred.
Nazi.
Nazi. All right?
Conspiracy theorist.
Conspiracy terrorist. This is not the way a tolerant Western society should behave. If I don't agree with you, I should be able to try to engage with you. The progressives are the ultimate Chosenites. Why? Because if I'm progressive, someone else must be reactionary. To be a progressive is to attribute yourself with some great qualities. This is why it is so attractive for many Jews. Because the difference between Jew, Goy, yeah, is like progressive, reactionary. Take it or leave it. Take it. This is a disaster, and this brings us pretty much to the end of this discussion before we start the Q&A. The problem that we have in Britain, in America, in France, in the West, is that for too long we have been dominated by Jerusalem. We are under the helm of Jerusalem. If we want to save ourselves, to save our society, to save the Jews, to save everyone, we have to reinstate Athens. The bad things that happened to us as Westerns came from Athens. The bad things, science, philosophy, ethics. And guess what? You are lucky. Obviously, because you have a chance to listen to me. But primarily because of your Athenian origin. Because of your Athenian origin, intellectually, metaphysically, you have the remedy integrated into your constitution. It is called the First Amendment. The First Amendment allows you to call a spade a spade. To aim once again towards the truth, not what is correct to say. We don't need the Chomskys of this world that will tell us what to say and what not to say. We need the Heideggers that will teach us once again how to think for ourselves. This is what it is. Thank you so much.